It was raining the night David's world finally ran out of road. He sat in his car outside the bank's after-hours machine, staring at a screen that showed a number too small to matter. Rent was 3 weeks late. The landlord had stopped being polite. His little girl needed shoes she'd outgrown a month ago. And his wife had stopped asking when things would get better, which somehow hurt more than the asking ever had. He had prayed. Of course he had prayed. But tonight the prayers felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling and landing back in his lap. He was a good man, honest to a fault. The kind who returned the extra change a cashier gave him by mistake. And right now, being good felt like the thing that had quietly bankrupted him. He stepped out into the rain to walk the last stretch home and save the petrol. And that's when he saw it, half in a puddle. Glistening under the streetlight, a wallet, fat, heavy, the kind that doesn't belong to someone counting their last coins. He picked it up and his breath caught. Cash. More cash than he had seen in one place in 2 years. Enough for the rent, enough for the shoes, enough to make the number on that screen stop screaming at him. He looked around. The street was empty. The rain was loud. No cameras. No witnesses. No one in the entire world would ever know. He got back in the car with the wallet and the war began. One voice was loud and reasonable. Take it. God knows you need it. Maybe this is the answer to your prayer. Maybe God put it here. Who would it even hurt? The person who lost this clearly has plenty more. And a quieter voice, the one he'd spent his whole life learning to listen to, said only one thing: you already know who you are. He sat there for a long time. He thought about his daughter, not the shoes, but her eyes, the way she watched him to learn what a man was. He thought of an old verse his mother used to say: whoever is faithful in little will be faithful in much. He had always been faithful in little. The little had never been this little, and the much had never felt this far away. Finally, he opened the wallet properly to find out who it belonged to. And there, behind the cash, was a driver's license. He read the name, he read the address, and the breath went out of him a second time. For a completely different reason. The address was 3 doors down from his own. It belonged to the elderly man on his street, the one everyone called difficult, the widower who never smiled, who had once shouted at David's daughter for stepping on his garden. The man nobody liked, the man it would have been so easy to feel he didn't deserve it back. He drove home. He could have waited until morning. He could have posted it through the door and stayed anonymous. Instead, soaked to the skin, he walked 3 doors down and knocked. It took a long time for the old man to answer. When he did, his face was not difficult. It was gray. It was frightened. He had been crying. David held out the wallet. The old man's hand shook as he took it. And then he said the thing David would never forget. That money, he whispered, is every cent I had left. I drew it out today to pay for my wife's headstone. I lost it on the way home, and I thought it was a sign that even that I couldn't get right. He looked up at the soaked stranger on his step. Why did you bring it back? You could have kept it. I'd never have known. David didn't have a grand answer. He just said, because it was never mine to keep. And he turned to walk back into the rain, to a home where the rent was still late, and the shoes were still too small, and nothing, on paper, had changed. But something had changed, because the next morning there was a knock on David's door. The old man stood there, and beside him, a younger man in a suit, his son, who happened to own the largest building firm in the county, and had been looking for weeks for one honest man he could trust. My father told me what you did, the son said. I don't need to see a CV. I've been searching for a man I can trust to manage my sites. I think I just found him. And so the man who, weeks before, sat in his car with no answer to the number on the screen, now stood on a building site in a hard hat that was his own. Not borrowed, not begged for. Site manager. steady wages, a foreman's trust. The young owner had been right about him. David ran those sites the same way he had handed back that wallet. Straight, honest, faithful, when no one was checking. The men under him noticed it too. Integrity, it turned out, was the one qualification money could never fake. That first proper pay packet did something David had almost forgotten was possible. He took his little girl to buy shoes, and this time, not one scuffed pair stretched to breaking. 2 pairs, sturdy black ones for the start of school, and a bright shiny pair for church, birthdays, and the days that call for something special. She held them to her chest like treasure, and David had to turn his face away so she wouldn't see her father cry. And his wife, the woman who had stopped asking when things would get better, stood in the doorway watching, a hand over her mouth, tears running and shining. "You always said he would," she whispered. "You always said God would change our story if we just kept trusting him." She laughed through the tears. "I'm sorry I stopped believing it. Look at us. Look what Jesus has done for us." They held each other in a small kitchen that finally felt like enough, because it was. That is the thing about the unseen moment. It is never as unseen as it feels. What you do when no one would ever know is the very seed of what you will one day reap. Be faithful in the little, the wallet, the change, the quiet choice in the dark, and watch what God does with the much. A man reaps what he sows. David sowed his integrity into a puddle on the worst night of his life, and it came back to him as a job, as 2 pairs of shoes, as his wife's tears of joy, as a future he could never have stolen. So if tonight you are sitting in your own car, staring at your own impossible number, holding something in your hands that no one would ever know you took, remember David. God has not forgotten you. He sees the unseen. He keeps a record of every quiet, costly act of faithfulness. And in His time, He will change your story too, for everyone who keeps putting their trust in Him. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder today, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring, faith-filled stories. As Jesus said in Luke 16:10, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." Until next time, stay faithful, stay hopeful, and may God richly bless you.